Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Tonight we have a special guest with us. Our normal accompanist, Paul Mostler, beloved by all, is away and spending time with family, and we have someone special here today. We have with us tonight someone named Dr. Ralph Seelig. When I returned home from undergraduate, I was not sure what I was going to do with my life, and Ralph approached me and asked me if I was willing to lead services. He was the president and accompanist at my synagogue in New York, and I said, sure, here we go, let's give it a run, and it worked out so nicely, here I am. So Ralph is a professor in mathematics by profession, but is an enthusiast and very knowledgeable scholar on German cantorial music and cantorial music as a whole. He is not a professional musician, so give him a little bit of leeway and enjoy our services. We begin on page 142 of Mishkan Tefillah, our big blue Sidur, with Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem LeShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Marchuni LeShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem LeShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We turn to page 124 at the top, 124, and please join me. It's a little bit easier to read now than we don't have our mask. We enter the sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wanderings, it has endured. A beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. Now we, in our turn, come into the sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold, weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak. Let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayers. It's my pleasure to welcome to the Bima, Judd, Anna, Stella, and Abigail. And I hope it's okay that I say this. It's been sort of a bit of a rough couple weeks for the family. A sick mom, and last week we recalled the yahrzeit of your father, a blessed memory. This week it's the anniversary of your grandfather, but Shabbat allows us a day to take a pause and a break and appreciation, because on Monday, something happens on Monday, correct? My birthday, and you're turning the age of 9, so as much as it's been a bit rough few weeks, light these candles to bring you peace and happiness and a wonderful birthday. Go ahead. For those who are able, we rise together for Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'v'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'asei v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh Zeichel Yitziat Mitzrayim Kivanu Bacharta Beotanu Kidashta Mikol Hamim B'Shabbat Kodshecha Be'ahava Uvratzon Hinchaltanu Baruch Atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat Amen
L'chaim. We turn to the top of page 127, 127, and please join me. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure, but what we do not gain. On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we care nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and about a world, our goal. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. We continue on page 130 with Psalm 95.
Adonai, Nariya letzurei sheinu, nekadma fana v'toda bizmirot, Nariya lo, ki el gadol Adonai, umelech gadol al kol Elohim, asher beyado mechrei aretz v'toafot harim lo, asher lo hayam behu asahu v'yabeshet yadav yatsaru, ki hu Eloheinu v'anachnu amarito v'tzoniato.
Welcome the Shabbat with Lecha Dodi on page 138.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'diburecha tishmianu El hamiuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem ultiferet v'litila Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela Likrat Shabbat lechu b'nei סוף מעשה במחשב בתחילה לכן דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לכן דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה התעוררי התעוררי כי באורך קומי אורי 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה לכן דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לכן דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצהולה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה לכאן דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לכאן דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה.
We continue on the bottom of page 145, 145. Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer on the mystery of a withered leaf, unripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to know, to hope and despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days, lest my be today as the one before, less routine set my ways. We continue with our Chetzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה בעלמא תברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומייכון ובחי דכל בית ישראל בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב מאמרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מברך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן מעלמם ואמרו amen.
We rise together, 146.
Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. ברכו את אדוני המבורך ברוך אדוני המבורך המבורך לעולם ועד המבורך המבורך לעולם ועד.
We turn to page 149, and please join me at the top. Praise you, Adonai, our God, for whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way in which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise you, Adonai, our God, for whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, hamariv aravim. On the next page.
Ahavat olam beit Yisrael, amecha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, b'shochbeinu uvkumeinu, nasiach bechukecha, ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו לאורך ימינו, ובהם נהגה יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל.
Oh, excuse me.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
The top of page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land. The winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness. There's no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Our song of freedom and redemption, or Michamocha 158.
Yada-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai, yada-dai yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha netar b'kodesh nora tehilot osef elef malchutecha ra'u banecha mokei hayam lifnei Moshe malchutecha ra'u banecha mokei hayam lifnei Miriam zeze Eli anu ve'ameru Adonai yimloch leolam leolam ba'ed yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 yada die 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 ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני
Baruch Shema.
גאל ישראל.
Amen. The top of page 161. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. We continue with Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom V'ha'amidenu Shomreinu Shomreinu L'chaim Ufros aleinu Sukat shelomecha Metakneinu Beitz hatova milfanecha Mehoshienu Leman shemecha.
We continue on page 163. Please join me. We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. We continue with Vishamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
165. Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. We rise together for our tefillah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקנה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע. מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סולמך נופלים ורופאי חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Top of page 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. May this day fulfill its promise. We continue on the next page with Ritzeh.
Ritzeh Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael u'tefilatam be'ahava tekabel u'tehi leratzon tamid avodat Yisrael. Yisrael amecha el karov lechol korah b'nei lavatecha bechonenu shefoch ruach
We continue on the top of page 179, and please join me. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. Make contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace.
Before we sing this, we normally sing a Jeff Klepper arrangement of Shalom Rav. There is a special version that we would often sing at my synagogue in New York, and because we have Ralph here, we're going to do that. It was written by a cantor named Eric Kunzius. It may sound like one of my old school German cantors, but he's actually a current cantor. He's retired, I think, from the cantorate, but a young man nonetheless, and enjoy this Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim, Tasim Leolam. Ki Atahu Melech Adon lechol hashalom, hashalom. Beto beinecha levarech et amcha, levarech et amcha Yisrael. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim, tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim, tasim leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom, hashalom. Beto beinecha levarech et amcha, levarech et amcha Yisrael.
We take a few moments for silent prayer.
Yihul ratzon imre fi, Yihul ratzon imre fi, Mehegion libi לפניך, אדוני צורי וגואלי. Oh, may the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart be acceptable before you, O God, my rock and my redeemer. Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, me'al kol Yisrael, me'imeru ve'imeru.
We're at that moment in our service where we take time to think of our loved ones, our friends, those who need healing of body and spirit. On this Shabbat, we especially think of Linda Applebaum, Cindy Silberman Bailey, Sophia Berry, Katie Bates, Joanne Bloom, Callie Bonds, Harold Seitling, Deborah Schragois, Sunita Costa, Melvin Davis, Brett Drummond, Mary Ann Freeman, Elaine Gross, Josie Hatfield, Evelyn Held, Patty Hersberg, Norma Jill Jacobson, Corey Kessler, Bart Kolber, Jerry Lapidus, Wayne Lewis, Susie Ofson, David Siegel, Liz Slive, Chrissy St. Charles, Brenda Weinstein, Jesse Weisberg, and Elisa Rosemore Whitehead. For those with us this evening, if you're thinking of a loved one, a friend, someone who means so much to you, who's in need of healing of body and spirit, we invite you to share that name out loud as my eyes meet yours. For those names mentioned out loud, and for those names that are still in our hearts, our Misha Berach, again, it's found on page 371. 371, where traditionally we would do this during the Torah service, and that's where it's found in Mishkan Tefillah.
Of strength, who'll bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Sheberach imotenu mekor habracha la'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
I think we got to say it's such a great feeling to see you put on all of your beautiful faces finally at this moment. But nevertheless, I think we're obligated to remember what this past, 14 months has done to us. School closures, isolations, loneliness, canceling camp. I think we've had enough of it. One thing especially that we had enough of, that was the cancellation of life cycles, whether it's for a funeral, being there for someone for Shiva, a bar bat mitzvah, and especially a mitzvah when we celebrate bride and groom under chuppah. And before COVID hit, I met with an incredible couple, Molly and Joe, and I'd like to invite you to the bima. Come on. For them, they were unfortunately a COVID wedding, or something that was delayed and delayed. Studying Judaism with me, but finally, come a little closer, it's okay. We're finally able to get to that moment. And though you've been legally married, we're not yet married in the eyes of our Jewish tradition. And Cantor Winter and I, we were so blessed to be part of the chuppah, not this Sunday, but the following Sunday, as two souls that were destined to be together at your birth finally meet. We'd like to give you a blessing on behalf of the clergy and staff and the Temple Emanu-El family. We ask the congregation to rise together. Source of laughter and gladness, let your presence accompany these two loving companions. Adonai, God of Most High, pour love over them. Grant them growth, each alone and together. May health and devotion, laughter, joy, and understanding abound for them. We pray that they have the strength to share life's sorrows, but may their love deepen and continue to flower. Open their hearts to one another, and may their hands be open to family, to friends, to their community, and to all who love them. We need to give you the words that's been with our people for 4,000 years, and may these words give you strength, courage, and love. May God bless you and forever protect you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May God forever be gracious to you and forever comfort you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha me'asem lecha shalom.
And once more, when we face adversities in life and difficulties, may God's face forever lift you up and forever bring you peace. Kan hi ratzon, may it be God's will. Mazel tov. See you in a week. A year ago, almost at this time, we had to say goodbye to someone incredibly important to me, a mentor, someone who I still deeply love, and that is Cantor Bernie Gutchin, but it was bittersweet because it led to Cantor Witter, my dear new partner and colleague and especially friend. But tonight, we are forced to say Lehitra'ot. It's more like see you later and not goodbye. I want to invite up William Lehman III to the bima. I asked them if they want to lead the service. They said no. Do you? I'm just kidding. Okay, I'm just kidding. For those who don't know William, he has an incredible history. For most of his life, he was in the woods. And if you ever go on a hike with him, more than likely he can identify the tree when it was planted and what that entails. But when I got to know William when I came here, he used to tell me that he forced himself to go into the gas station when he pumped gas to pay because he wanted to talk to someone. That he was out in the woods by himself, probably engaging in high forms of spirituality, but it was a lonely endeavor. Someone who hates loneliness, I appreciate when someone forces themselves to not be lazy and go say hello even to the person who takes your currency at the gas station. But sooner or later, you found your way here. You returned to Judaism, and it's something about this tradition that you love and support. And you did something incredibly difficult. After not talking to anybody, you decided to do arguably the hardest task, that is talking to the Jewish people every single day. Every single day when we came into these doors, I truly loved seeing your face. Yes, I got aggravated when you made me do the temperature checks, but I knew how serious you were behind it. But William, there's something about you. In Yiddish, we say it's a gitte neshama. You have a good soul. The Talmud teaches us when we greet someone with a cheerful smile, we're able to bring God's presence into the world, and that's what you certainly did for me. I love seeing you every morning. When we are up in our offices, you are also a source of comfort. You had your eyes on the camera. You had your eyes all over this building. You provided us strength and security, and that was such a good feeling. And when we asked you to stay late, of course you said yes. I know that you want to retire, I think 9 times. I may have guilted you to stay. But I know it's time. That desk will always be your desk, and I want you to know that. And whoever takes that position downstairs has big shoes to fill. I'm thrilled you're going to be here every Friday, as you always done, greeting all of us. We love you. You love this Temple family. And whatever the next path is, this will always be your home. We love you. Mazel tov on such a career. It's hard to work with the Jewish people, but you did it perfectly with kavod and with love. We'd like to say something for you. Over here. He's going to sing to you. Here. Let's rise again, guys. Come on. Go to the other. Come on, William. Told you I'd make you cry.
Baruch haba b'shem Adonai, beirachnuchem mibeit Adonai. Baruch haba b'shem Adonai, beirachnuchem mibeit Adonai. Mazel tov.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. Nancy, if you guys want to move because of the light, it's okay. I'm not going to call on you anymore, I promise. Okay. For the past 2 weeks, I've heard from so many of you regarding my past sermons, many of whom said, I've never seen you like that before. And for the most part, I received the following questions or perhaps responses, and they were, this Jew hatred. How has this happened to Jews in this country? That's the first question, the emails that I got and the phone calls. And the second, and which is also really important, and I'm thrilled to hear, is what can we do? We need to have a tangible and doable prescription whenever we face something like this. To answer my first question, I think we're obligated to be introspective. I think we're obligated to do some deep soul searching. We need to have an honest conversation with ourselves. So why are we seeing Jew hatred up 500% again the past 14 days? We have allowed this to happen. And in my opinion, it's our fault. The buck stops with us. These past 2 weeks, I've noticed, caused so many Jews in this country to respond and to get angry. But the reality is, this problem of Jew hatred in this country, it's been going on for so many years. And I'm not going to speak about the 19th century or the mid-20th century, but just 10 years. We saw this Jew hatred on college campuses, and keep in mind as I'm saying this, the provost and president of Rutgers University offered a statement of solidarity with the Jewish people, and then after protests from Students for Justice in Palestine, he had to reverse it and then issued an apology for standing in solidarity with the Jewish people. This is what we're up against. But this Jew hatred's been in the media. I think so many things that I've already touched on the past 2 weeks. But again, back to that question, we have allowed this to happen. About 5 weeks ago, and I want to be careful, the New York JCRC, New York, not ours, New York JCRC, they hosted a member of the squad as a formal discussion about Israel and Judaism. But even with the past 2 weeks, we still don't get it. Even with the 500% rise here and in the UK, we still don't get it. The Reform Action Center, which is the social action wing of the Reform movement, it sent out an email yesterday asking for Reform Jews throughout this country to engage in some of their civic endeavors, their campaigns of voter matters and other ways to solicit politicians regarding political matters. But the rise against Jews in the RAC, the social action wing of the Reform movement, it was buried and buried and buried and buried and buried in the email. We still don't get it. The RAC, nothing about Sarah Halimi, and I spoke about her death a couple weeks ago. The RAC, nothing about Joseph Newman, a blessed memory, who was murdered in Muncie, New York. Nothing. We still don't get it. And for the past couple of years, the attacks in Brooklyn against the Hasidic community, silence from us. The Central Conference of American Rabbis, they issued a statement about the rise in Jew hatred, but for me, way too late. We still don't get it. Jewish writer who's a Scottish Jew who's living in the country, Eve Barlow, recently wrote a brilliant piece entitled "The Social Media Pogrom. Twitter will not free Palestine, but it'll certainly make the world a more anti-Semitic place." And here's a quote. "When you have Hollywood celebrities, singers like Snoop Dogg, the National Black Lives Matter movement, Manchester United, including Jews like Sarah Silverman and Natalie Hirschlag, also known as Natalie Portman, she's Israeli, throwing their full support behind a reductive, inflammatory, and dangerous case against Israel, it's very appealing to join in. Considering that Halsey, and I didn't know who she was until last year, she's a pop singer, but she has more followers on social media than there are Jews alive today. She's also a Jew hater. The combined strength of their platforms is an excellent way to drown out the voice of Zionists with a chutzpah to defend themselves and survive in this conflict, both in Israel and here in the diaspora. Hamas has a Twitter account. The Iranian regime, who wants to destroy Israel and kill all Jews, they too have a Twitter account. Her words are so true. Social media allows this pogrom against the Jewish people. And what happened next? Seth Rogen, who's a Jewish actor, mocked her. The great appellate attorney, Alan Dershowitz, who recently wrote a piece that social media will be one of the greatest ways to harm the Jewish people throughout this country and throughout this world. And when the conflict with Israelis and the Palestinians happened, this began on TikTok, again with the TikTok intifada. So I ask this question again: what have we done about this as a Jewish community? We all remember when last summer when Senator Tom Cotton wrote a piece in the New York Times about enacting a law to bring in the National Guard during the riots. Staffers at the New York Times were so angry, they demanded resignations, and resignations happened. Keep in mind, they're about to publish an op-ed from Hamas. We haven't heard any mid-level staffers getting upset. We still don't get it as a Jewish community. Again, we are allowing this to happen. Jew hatred, and for those who know me by now, I'm not saying anti-Semitism because it's lost its punch. It's the oldest form of hatred. We have faced this in different waves, but here in the States, in all forms, college campuses, print and television, media, celebrities, social media, the majority of us, which is about 70% of Jews in this country, we've been silent. We've allowed it to happen. Our priorities have changed. We have attached ourselves to causes and to people that at the end of the day aren't really good for the Jewish people. And for those who will watch me, for those people who are staunch Jews but staunch anti-Zionists, at the end of the day, they still hate you because you are Jewish. We have put aside our people, our indigenous homeland, for causes that we think are so important, but at the end, this will harm us. So what do we do? I believe that this is the most pivotal moment for American Jewry. When was the last time Jew hatred was up 500% in a 14-day period? For those with a good memory, we can easily go back to 1933 and 1945. I'm not comparing it, but it's haunting. And recently, survivors have issued a statement regarding the rise of Jew hatred, and what's going on is reminding them of what happened in Europe in the middle part of the past century. But this is a pivotal moment for American Judaism. And I want us to answer this question moving forward. What will be our legacy 20 years from now? What do we do to become united? What steps did we take? Tonight is the yahrzeit of the great Rabbi Grafman. Rabbi Grafman was a pioneer in his own generation. He knew what mattered regarding Israel, and he took a stand when so many Reform rabbis wouldn't. And Mark, for those at home, please put it on the screen, and for those who are with us tonight, I want to direct you to a copy of a newspaper around 1942. This is our Rabbi Grafman, and thank you, Stephen, his son, for sending this to me. Two rabbis of Birmingham, one representing the conservative synagogue down the street, and the other a Reform, have signed a nationwide rebuke to the opponents of Zionism, which is made public Monday. Abraham J. Mesh of Bethel Synagogue, conservative, and Rabbi Milton L. Grafman of Temple Emanu-El Reform both applied their signature to the pronouncement, which was signed by 733 rabbis throughout the United States, including heads of all national rabbinical associations. Significant is the fact that Reform Rabbi Grafman has signed the statement, which is directed at a group of Reformed rabbis regarded as unfriendly to the Zionist cause. The statement declares that the defeat of Hitler will not of itself normalize Jewish life in Europe, and states that after the war, Europe will be so ravaged and war-torn that large masses of Jews will elect migration to Palestine. And I'm going to go off script. Palestine is a Greek word coined by Herodotus, which means Judea. Palestine is a Greek word which means Judea, as a solution of their personal problems. The opposing group charges that Zionism is a secular movement. The rabbinical pronouncement replied that the opponents are rendering the Zionist movement a grave disservice, and that they will be responsible for Jews not obtaining the haven in Palestine they might otherwise have had. The pronouncement defends the political program or the Zionist movement as an indispensable means for assuring large-scale Jewish colonization in the homeland, and affirms that the settlement of 500 Jews in Palestine since the last war was made possible by political action, which culminated in the Balfour Declaration and the Palestine Mandate. Without effective political action, the 733 signers contend there can be little hope of opening the doors of Palestine for mass Jewish immigration after the war. How about that? Thank you, Stephen, once again, and may your dad's memory forever be a blessing to your family and to this incredible congregation which you built. And that's why I'm proud to be here. Rabbi Grafman knew one important thing about this. Israel in no capacity, it is not a political matter. For those who felt in my sermons the past 2 weeks, they were not political. Israel is a Jewish matter. His legacy was fighting for the Jewish cause when so many Reformed rabbis didn't support it. Again, I say, this is the most pivotal time for American Jewry. We need action more than ever so we can have a legacy like Rabbi Grafman did for us when we evaluate ourselves 20 years later. For Temple Emanu-El members, I am desperately calling on you. Right now, I'm creating the Israel Action Committee or Task Force, and I desperately need your help. We need to get together, we need to brainstorm, we need to come up with the right and effective programming and educational advocacy to ensure that Jewish identity is strengthened, especially for the young families, that they will learn to grow Israel. Any ideas, any programs, and more information you'll find out this week. But this task force or committee This is crucial for the next steps. And as their years pass, it requires evaluation. Do we meet our objectives? How do we engage, especially those young families? And in years to come, I want this congregation to ask, what did I do for Israel and the Jewish people? I know when I answer this question, this will be my legacy for this congregation. Second, I've asked the leadership to look at our mission statement. I did the same thing at Temple Solel in San Diego. I'm asking the board to get together to adopt language in our mission statement where this synagogue stands in total solidarity with the state of Israel. And third, as I see my colleague and friend Danny Cohn, our CEO of the Jewish Federation, we are meeting this week. Israel education and advocacy is crucial here in Jewish Birmingham, and Temple Emanu-El will be a sacred partner to the BJF in any of its endeavors regarding Jewish life in Israel action. We lose when we don't care. We lose when our priorities and passions put Judaism aside. In our Torah portion for this week, V'holoktecha, it talks about the idea of a second Seder. These are for Israelites who were ritually impure, who weren't able to attend the first Seder, but they were given a second chance. Our rabbis understand this. For life, we're going to miss the mark. We're going to make mistakes, but at the end of the day, we get another chance. We get to start anew. And for me, it's time that I call out things. I'm not afraid of the RAC. I'm not afraid of the Central Conference of American Rabbis like Rabbi Grafman. I will call out anyone, even within my own movement, who is not doing enough for the Jewish people. Our goal is to change the hearts and minds of the 70% of American Jews who don't care. It's time to get in the battle. I'm looking forward to hearing from so many of you. Am Yisrael Chai forever. Shabbat Shalom. We rise together for Aleinu 586.
עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. מה אנחנו קוראים, ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. When tears dim our vision and grief clouds our understanding, we often lose sight of God's eternal plan. Yet we know that growth and decay, life and death, all reveal a divine purpose. God, who is our support in the struggles of life, is also our hope in death. We have set God before us and shall not despair. In God's hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Under God's protection we abide, and by God's love we are comforted. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts and fill our spirits with abiding trust in you. On the Shabbos, we recall the yortzites of Harris Toro Bellows, Ralph Carl Black Jr., Louis Berger, Glenn Harvey Cooper, Alta Epsman, Donald Getz, Goldie Gary Goldberg, Isidore Goldfarb, Gerald Wayne Goldfarb, Sidney Milton Goldstein, Dorothy Goldstein, Rose Katz Gottlieb, Andrea Gold, Rabbi Milton L. Grafman, Roy D. Gresham, George Kirschberg, Louis Leaf, Elliot Loveman, Bertram Moses Marks, Rosalind Mason, Martin Bay, Sylvia Babe Miller, James O'Patrick, Reuben Pija, Donald Raymond, Dave Rosenfeld, Lena Salloway, Linda Schwartz, Steve Slate, Sol Slive, Dee Dee Sokol, Rita Russ Spear, Siegfried Steiner, Sylvia Lewis Weinstein, Fanny Weinstein, Richard Wertheimer, Norval O'Winnick, and Vivian Zaraf Mazer, and our heartfelt condolences in the recent passing of Tony Laughlin, friend of Dr. Glenn Fleissig, Elena Kishinevsky-Stern, daughter of Igor and Mila, Phoebe Mayer Cotton, mother of Peter Egley and Barry Cotton, of blessed memory. We rise together for our Mortar's Kaddish on page 598. Yikadal, Vikadah, Shemei Rabbah, V'yomah divrach rote, V'amlich machute, B'chayachon of Yomechon, Ufchayet the called Beit Yisrael, Bagalah Wizman Kari, V'yimru,
Amen.
Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam Olamei Maya, Yitrach Vishtabach Vitra Ard Vitra Mam Nehit Naseh, Vita Dar Vita Lev Vita Lal, Shmei Kutsha,
Brichu.
Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'Shirata, Tush V'Chata V'Nechamata, Damin Ram Be'omah V'yamru,
Amen.
Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'Chaim Aleinu V'Yakol Yisrael V'yamru, Amen. Osei Shalom B'Imromav, Huya Say Shalom, Aleinu V'Yakol Yisrael V'yamru, Amen.
Ose Shalom B'Imromav, Huya Say Shalom, Aleinu V'Yakol Yisrael Me'imeru, Amen.
We are proud Jews, we are proud American Jews, and this weekend remember those who served our country. I want to invite up Bob before we conclude with God Bless America, who will record the names of those soldiers who have passed away at year's end in wars.
Thank you. Good Shabbos.
Shabbos.
The Jewish war veterans, the patriotic voice of American Jewry, and the oldest continuously operating veterans organization, has requested that the names of the Jewish servicemen and servicewomen who lost their lives in the Afghanistan and Iraq wars be read at Shabbat services at synagogues throughout America on Memorial Day weekend. As commander of Jewish War Veteran Post 608 here in Birmingham, it is my solemn duty to read the 58 names here at Temple Emanu-El. Specialist Daniel G. Agami, Army. Sergeant Howard P. Allen, Arizona Army National Guard. First Lieutenant David R. Bernstein, Army. Corporal Albert Bitten, Army. Sergeant Aaron C. Blum, Marine Corps. Petty Officer 2nd Class Michael Brodsky, Navy. Petty Officer 3rd Class Nathan Brockenthal, Coast Guard. Technical Sergeant Anthony L. Capra, Air Force. Sergeant 1st Class Christopher A. Sellers, Army. Corporal Ryan J. Clark, Army. Corporal Michael R. Cohen, Marine Corps. Second Lieutenant Seth Devoren, Army. Lance Corporal Mark E. Engel, Marine Corps. Corporal Mark A. Urban, Marine Corps. Private First Class Aaron Fairbairn, Army. First Lieutenant Daniel Farkas, Army. Sergeant Zachary M. Fisher, Army. Specialist Jacob S. Fletcher, Army. Specialist Daniel J. Freeman, Army. Specialist Douglas Green, Army. Sergeant Foster L. Harrington, Marine Corps. Airman First Class Elizabeth Jacobson, Air Force. Lance Corporal Jeremy M. Kane, Marine Corps. Petty Officer Second Class SEAL Matthew G. Cantor, Navy. First Lieutenant Nathan M. Krisoff, Marine Corps. Staff Sergeant James N. Melachowski, Marine Corps. Private First Class Gebra P. Noonan, Army. Specialist Levi E. Nuncio, Army. Corporal Michael Aramis, Army. Staff Sergeant Robert J. Paul, U.S. Army Reserve. Major Mark E. Rosenberg, Army. Corporal Dustin H. Schrage, Marine Corps. First Lieutenant Rosalind L. Schultz, Air Force. Captain Joseph W. Schultz, Army. Captain Robert M. Seacher, Marine Corps. Specialist Mark S. Seiden, Army. Airman First Class Matthew R. Sider, Air Force. Staff Sergeant Michael E. Shackelford, Army. Private First Class Stephen Shapiro, Army. Sergeant Alan D. Sherman, Marine Corps Reserve. Chief Warrant Officer Joshua Silverman, Army. Captain Benjamin A. Sclaver, Army. Chief Warrant Officer Eric Smith, Army. Private First Class Eric D. Sofrin, Army. First Lieutenant Andrew K. Stern, Marine Corps. Captain Michael Y. Tarvlovsky, Army. Staff Sergeant Peter W. Taub, Air Force. Private First Class Morris L. Walker, Army. Specialist Glenn J. Watkins, Washington Army National Guard. Technical Sergeant Timothy R. Wiener, U.S. Air Force. Sergeant Robert M. Weinger, Army. Specialist Jeffrey M. Wershaw, Florida Army National Guard. Private First Class Colin J. Wolf, Marine Corps. Major Stuart L. Wolfer, Army. Sergeant Elijah Taiwa Wong, Army. Specialist Benjamin Ben Yehuda, Army. Senior Airman Jonathan A.V. Yellner, Air Force. Lieutenant Stephen Zilberman, Navy.
Page 680.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Good Shabbos.
Thank you, Ralph.